Hello there. So today we're going to be looking at the poem Boxes by Sampurna Chattarji. Um, in this poem, she uses boxes as a way of describing life inside a small, cramped apartment. And the metaphor of a box is used to reflect the uncomfortable conditions the woman feels as she's trapped inside this space, surrounded by a huge city. In terms of wider themes, the poem explores our quality of life and well-being when we have so little personal space and are surrounded by urban living. So we're going to analyze this poem in detail, but first let's read through it. Her balcony bears an orchid, smuggled in a duffel bag from Singapore. Its roots cling to air. For 2 hours every morning, the harsh October sun turns tender at its leaves. 9 steps from door to balcony, and already she is a giant insect fretting in a jar. On one side of her one room home, a stove where she cooks dal in an iron pan. The smell of food is good. Through the window bars, the sing-song of voices high then low in steady arcs. With his back to the wall, a husband and a giant stack of quilts threatening to fall. Sleeping room only, a note on the door should have read, readying you for cramp. Fall in and kick off your shoes. Right angled to this corridor with a bed, trains make tracks to unfamiliar sounding places. Unhidden by her curtains, 2 giant black pigs lie dead or sleeping on a dump. Every day the city grows taller, trampling underfoot students' wives, lovers, babies. The boxes grow smaller. The sea becomes a distant memory of lashing wave and neon, siren to 7 islands once. The sky strides inland on giant stilts, unstoppable, shutting out the light. Now, I don't know where you live, but I currently live in an apartment, but I used to live in a house, and for me, it's definitely a bigger sense of freedom and independence when you are in a house with some more space around you. So maybe you can relate to this. So let's dig a little deeper now and see what's going on here. So in this poem, the woman only knows about her own apartment, ironically referred to as a box. And the title of the poem is worth thinking about before we dive a little deeper. What are boxes for? They're generally for keeping things inside. Quite often the aim of a box is also to stop things from getting out. And in this case, the thing is the person living in the apartment. So let's have a look at the beginning of the, the poem here. So we start with an image of an orchid struggling to get by. It was smuggled or secretly brought to this balcony in a small bag by an anonymous woman, perhaps anonymous as people tend to lose their identities in these situations. Also, usually people smuggle illegal items, but here maybe even a symbol of nature isn't particularly welcome. We're told its roots cling to air. The verb cling evokes a sense of desperation while it gets the required tender sunlight for only a brief time each day. And if it's this hot in October, that also gives us a clue about her location. In some countries, an October sun would be much cooler, but here it's still very hot. Much like the orchid that's too big for the plant pot, the woman and her husband need more space than they're currently getting. Perhaps the orchid also symbolizes the woman's own yearning for more space and light. Now, the speaker then zooms out to show us the rest of the apartment. It doesn't take very long because it's a mere 9 steps from the door to the balcony on the other side. And this stanza ends with another metaphor. She's said to be a giant insect fretting in a jar. Again, this gives us a sense of her being trapped. The adjective giant emphasizes the lack of space in the jar, and the verb fretting means someone who is anxious. So moving on to the second stanza, here the speaker shows us that the woman is now standing by her balcony, looking back, describing the scene. And immediately the speaker repeats the word one to highlight how everything is minimal, and then describes what the woman is cooking. Dal, you can see a picture of it there, is a common Indian dish that uses usually dried lentils, beans, or peas. And notice the enjambment here after she. It's a very unnatural place to stop the line. But this is done to show how awkward cooking is in such a confined space. And keep looking out for these strange enjambments as they happen a few more times throughout the poem. Now, although things are tight, the simple sentence, "the smell of food is good," shows us that, along with the orchid, this woman is trying to build a home. And we move from the olfactory or smell image of cooking to auditory imagery next. Through the window bars and obvious connotations of prison bars there's a steady arc of voices. Now, an arc is an image worth exploring, as this makes it sound like the voices rise and fall but never go away completely, making it feel rather oppressive. And although the sing-song of voices suggests a pleasant tone, the heavy sibilance in this phrase, the repeated S sounds, makes it more cutting and incessant, like it's happening all day and all night. And it's only now that the speaker mentions there's actually another person in the room, her husband. The phrase, "with his back to the wall," is followed by another enjambment. This makes the phrase stand out, which is deliberate, as having your back to the wall is an idiom that means you're in a difficult situation where escape is hard. It's a pretty good summary of this couple's accommodation, I guess. It's also partly humorous that the husband is mentioned between a couple of commas, almost as though he's taking up space in the sentence itself. If you want to be fancy and super technical here, that's a subordinate or a dependent clause the poet is using. And finally, the line ends with the giant adjective, again, this time to describe quilts about to fall. Things falling is also a repeated image in this poem. So overall, these stanzas give a sensory overload, showing us how really overwhelming all these images, sounds, and smells can be in one small place. And we move on to the third stanza here. And here there's a bit of a change. So having described the apartment, the speaker now reflects on what could have been. There's a moment of slight sarcasm here when they think about how the advert for this place should have said sleeping room only. A side note here, Chattarji used to work in advertising, so she knows all about euphemisms and the vague, persuasive language used to try and get somebody to live in a space like this. The cramp could be cramped conditions or physical cramp, as there's nowhere really to stretch out here. Whoever left the note is clearly controlling or creating these conditions and doesn't really seem to care. They're also, you may have noticed, completely absent from the poem and probably this couple's lives. The speaker uses imperatives to announce that you have to simply fall in and kick off your shoes. They start with an infinitive verb. There's another reference to falling there, you may have noticed. And as the woman looks outside, the speaker describes more auditory imagery, the sounds of trains passing nearby. And these sounds are reflected in the hard alliteration we can see here, including kick, trains, tracks, corridor, curtains. Those are placed deliberately to create a harder, unpleasant series of sounds, much like this woman has to put up with every day. And where are the trains going? Well, they're going off to places she's never heard of because she's never likely to go there herself and escape the city. So moving on, the woman is unhidden by her curtains, despite the purpose of curtains being to hide things. But this allows her to stare down at the pigs, whose agricultural connotations contrast with the urban transport system rattling past her door nearby. It sounds like they may even be dead, the pigs, which, along with the trains and the location of the dump, create another olfactory or smell kind of imagery. And then the final stanza we'll move on to here carries on from the last in terms of being a bit more reflective. The woman's thinking about what could have been or what was. So now the speaker describes how the whole city grows taller while the boxes become smaller, which evokes a sense of pity as the problem seems to be expanding. I also really like the asyndeton in the line students, wives, lovers, babies. Asyndeton is the lack of punctuation, so here there isn't even space to have commas, highlighting how everything is packed into one place, or here, a single line in the poem. There's another contrast here as the speaker talks about a sea off the coast of Mumbai that used to be home to a mermaid who would sing to the seven islands. There's quite a lot to unpack here. Sirens were beautiful mermaids, but were also quite dangerous, as it's thought their songs would tempt sailors to their deaths. And the sounds here do have a kind of musical quality. Check out all the sibilants in Siren to Seven Islands. That's all gone now, and in its place is a new mythological creature. The city is the new monster that strides on giant stilts and blocks out any natural light and therefore nature itself. And this means the poem ends with a negative tone and very little kind of hope, as this monster is a metaphor that doesn't really care about the life who lives within its reach or how they live. Now, in terms of wider themes, we see this woman trying hard to make her apartment into a home. She buys flowers and cooks, but it's almost impossible. Even her husband seems to be taking up valuable space. So while the cities continue to grow and expand, ironically, those living there are forced into smaller and smaller spaces. You could easily imagine that the orchid is a metaphor for the woman herself, desperately looking for fresh air and sunshine to survive. This, the speaker suggests, is a common problem as city planners take over and limit millions of people to a tiny space of their own. And which city are we talking about? Well, the poem doesn't say specifically about Mumbai, but the reference to the Seven Islands are a big clue because Mumbai was created by the merging of seven islands through land reclamation. Okay, now let's talk a bit more widely about the structure of the poem here and what's going on. Now, it's written in what's called free verse, which could suggest some sort of freedom. However, this is boxed into a really tight structure with 5-line stanzas that are all about the same length. So no surprise, you could actually say that the poem itself, if you zoom out, looks like the box or the block of apartments that the woman lives in. Now, the constant enjambments or run-on lines add to the awkward, cluttered feel that runs through the whole poem. And again, Chattarji knows what she's doing and adds these in to reflect the cluttered feel of the apartment. It certainly helps us understand what the giant insect in the jar would feel like. One of the few places where the line ends where you think it should is in the simple sentence, "The smell of food is good," which suggests some kind of comfort and rhythm and an attempt to have control over her life, even in a small way. And although there's no real meter or rhyme scheme here, the poem does have a flow and some life to it. This is created partly by internal rhymes, words within lines that rhyme, such as taller, smaller, bars, arcs, and the actual end rhyme, wall and fall. As for the actual speaker, note that it's not the woman herself, but an observer who seems to be looking in and describing this apartment. And most of the time we see it through the perspective of the woman in the apartment, but towards the end the speaker zooms out to talk about the world outside the city in order to provide some contrast. So overall, Boxes is a poem describing the challenge of urban living. The woman tries hard to inject some life and individuality into her tiny room, but struggles as every day the city expands and seems to hem her in. Okay, I hope you found that useful. If you did, please feel free to like and subscribe. Thank you.